Good morning. Welcome to B Cube Sunday morning. I'm Bob Brown. I'm not really looking at my camera very good. Let me move my camera.
Bob is experiencing either technical difficulties or a localized earthquake phenomenon.
Oh, hell.
Could be both.
I'm the most disorganized person you'll ever meet. And But we're here today on Retribution and Revenge Sunday, according to Trump, I guess, because he has just threatened to invade you people in Minnesota.
Yep.
And I am so proud to have two people on here from Minnesota that I'll let Cliff introduce in a second, that are leading part of the effort of Minnesota leading the fight for democracy in the United States. In the Civil War, it was Minnesota sent a lot of troops to defend the nation, and they're doing it again, only on their own streets, their own sidewalks, which I hope they don't accidentally spill their water bottle on at the wrong time. That could cause an ice person to slip. Because now, there's one point I've got to get out of my head. I have heard the phrase uniformed officers a lot. I have looked at these guys. They look like a bunch of Alabama rednecks or Arkansas rednecks that found a box of Army surplus at the Goodwill and said, "Look, Ma, we can put on an army."
They kind of did, literally.
Yeah, I've heard the people call them the Temu Gestapo.
Cops play.
Yeah, they're good cosplay. Yeah, they're cosplay cops.
Cops play.
Yeah, it's just there's no uniformity to their uniforms. There's
the only uniformity is their faces are covered.
Yeah, well, some of them that's probably a blessing because, I bet you most of these people have a face for radio and a belly for an all-you-can-eat diner. Anyway, that said, I don't mean to disparage people who are stealing the money out of our treasury that could go to legal law enforcement and better law enforcement or education, so that they can make Kristi Noem look cute on TV. I mean,
and she does have some nice hats. That's
God,
the thing I will say about Kristi Noem.
She needs to send that Texas dentist a little extra money, and all the people that she paid to get, I guess, pretty enough to be on Trump's cabinet. But that said, I'm going to shut up now. Cliff, introduce us to your people and let them start educating us.
Okay, Bob, thank you. Hello and good morning, B-Cube viewers. Good morning to my guests. As we have noted, I have two guests today. Diana McCleery is a returning guest. She was previously on our Art as Resistance episode of this very podcast with Thaddeus Howes and Andrew L. Roberts, which was a great discussion, and you can still find it online on YouTube and Facebook Live on the BQ Press page on Facebook. She is she's an actress. She has been in Rocky Horror Casts. She is a media critic. She has the Midnight in the Back Row video podcast like this one, where she discusses various media quite intelligently, I might add.
Thank you.
And she has also previously had a podcast teaching science to pagans, and those episodes I think are still up on
they're still available, yeah.
Yeah, so you can learn science. You don't have to be pagan to learn science from Diana. All right, and she also lives in Minneapolis. We're going to talk about that. Naomi Kritzer is a multiple Hugo Award-winning author, and she has also won the Nebula, the Lodestar, the Minnesota Booker Award, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And she is the author of Cat Pictures Please, which was her first Hugo, and that spawned the Catnet series of young adult books. The latest of which you could hold up real quick for our viewers. Chaos on Catnet. She is also the author of a series of seasteading stories that got put into a book by Fairwood Press called Daughter of Liberty. Liberty's Daughter. Something like that. I was close.
Trying to get it.
Yeah, which has a really good cover. Really beautiful, beautiful a book about how much it sucks to be the kid of the people who founded a seasteading society, basically. And she has a new novella coming out from Tor called Obstetrics with an X. Look for that this summer. But we're not going to talk about any of that right now. Although I would love to have Naomi back when Obstetrics actually comes out to talk about it, if she is available. But she is also a resident of St. Paul. And I have it on good authority that St. Paul and Minneapolis are right next to each other. And I also have it on good authority that the fascists have come. So, but in the winter, so it's kind of ice versus ice, apparently. So I invited both of them to come and talk to y'all about what it is like to live under occupation by ICE and this administration. And let's start by turning the Wayback Machine to last year, how it all started. What was the first indication that bad was going to be happening locally for y'all? Oh, and I should also mention that Naomi does she has always been into politics. She does blogs about the candidates for local elections, and she has been doing this since the Live Journal days. So Naomi has already had a focus, a positive focus on local politics, and that's maybe led into this ICE situation, or at least a filter through which to view it. So please, one of you talk, or both of you talk about how this started, how it began, what it was like.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Where do you count it starting?
Wherever you would like to start our viewers. I mean, we got a 1 hour podcast.
I'm not clear on exactly when ICE came to Minnesota, like Minneapolis area, but it was around, I want to say it was around the same time as they were going to, just shortly after they went to Chicago, and they sent them to Portland. And, it was around that same time that Minneapolis was involved too, as a hotbed of liberal threat.
Right.
Yeah, I want to say it was something in the fall that they started ramping up. So yeah, when Trump was reelected, they scheduled a bunch of trainings for people to do legal observing, and I took one of those like last winter sometime. I don't remember exactly when, and I went on a text notifications list to find out if there was an ICE raid somewhere, and they were like, but at the time the ICE raids they were talking about were like very much sort of the old school, like show up at an employer at the beginning of a shift and grab a lot of people at once, and like that's how it was happening at first, and then things like really shifted.
So it was like just a few goons at first, and then
it was like what you'd expect at first. I mean, it was nasty and wrong, but they were at least, knocking on people's doors saying they had warrants instead of just snatching people off the street, and they've got it to under 2 minutes. So even when you got a text saying, "Hey, something's happening at this corner," by the time you got there, it was over.
Oh,
there's a sort of kind of like a classic ICE raid that like you see in the movies, that is like how it worked for a really long time, where they would go to your door, they would go to your workplace, they would be after specific people, and they're literally just driving around grabbing people for bus stops because they're brown. Like that's literally what they're doing.
And not just.
They've been they've picked up a lot of people who are citizens, and they picked up a bunch of people who are native and and then refused to let them go.
Well, I'm going to jump on you for a second there. They told they have 3 Ojibwe tribal elders, and they told the Ojibwe, well, sure, we'll let them go as long as you give us permission to come onto your land and do whatever we want. They're like, no, keep them. And I'm sure the elders are like, no, keep us.
Yeah, that's insane. Like the the descendants of illegal immigrants capturing the locals as an immigration policy.
They've made it really, I mean, this is not remotely about enforcing immigration laws. This is not remotely about what they claimed when they, Trump claimed that he was going to send a bunch of people here because of a local fraud scandal involving questions about daycare, several daycare providers, whether they were actually taking care of kids or if they were committing fraud. But if that's what he wanted to fix, he would have sent accountants, not goons.
So the daycare fraud question is a Reichstag fire for Donald Trump?
Kind of. Maybe a Reichstag bonfire. I mean, my understanding of the issue was some right-wingers decided they were going to go check out this daycare and get some answers. And they knocked on the door, and the daycare didn't answer the door because daycares aren't supposed to do that. Also in Minnesota, we had a legislator shot by someone who knocked on their door and looked like law enforcement. So people don't want to.
And we had a school shooting in October.
Right. And so that was fraud.
Yeah.
That's the fraud thing. But at the same time, I think what they were doing, Naomi, I think you're exactly right on what the ultimate plan was. And they sent people to a bunch of different cities looking for escalation. And they shot the lady in Minnesota, and this is where it happened here. So this is where they're doubling down on. They've pulled people out of Portland, I believe. And I believe they're pulling people out of New Orleans to send here. They are just like, let's throw some stuff at the wall and see what sticks in Minneapolis.
And they do not have anything to do here other than drive around and terrorize people. And so that's what they're doing.
Yeah, because Minnesota is such a hotbed of illegal immigration. It's the gateway to America.
There are a lot of immigrants here, especially if you're looking at specific kinds of immigrants. We have the largest Hmong population outside of Laos. And we have a lot of Somali people here. I don't know if it's the most in the country, but it could be. If not, it's close. So there are, and a lot of people from Mexico and South America. So they do have a lot of immigrants that pick on here.
But we have, a ton of these groups are legal. The Hmong population is here because they fought on our side in a war we lost. That is why the Hmong community came here. They're legal. The Somali population came legally, and they're mostly citizens. A whole lot of the Somali population now are either born here or naturalized. And
they're illegal. I'm sorry, I need to jump on you.
They are proud Americans. We've done some amazing videos, some really moving videos of Somalis who are standing up to ICE, who are there was a woman who was stopped and they were where were you born? And she was like, it doesn't matter. I'm American. And that is the sort of thing that actually makes me feel patriotic.
Yeah. Even if they were here illegally, they still deserve due process.
Our
laws don't allow people to be kidnapped off the street.
Yeah. There's a process. There's supposed to be a way that this, that this works, and it is not what they're not remotely what they're doing.
Yeah. So what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing, is that it went from kind of normal, kind of expected, and it kind of mushroomed very rapidly. Now, did that start before Renee Nicole Good was, I'm going to say, murdered, allegedly murdered by her alleged murderer, or did that happen after as a result of that?
There was active resistance to ICE being here before she was shot. And I think that was a reaction to our resistance. I mean, there are neighborhood chats on Signal. There are neighborhood chats on Facebook. There's Monarca, which will send you text whenever someone reports that ICE is active at a particular corner. So you can go and you can blow whistles at them and follow them in your car and honk your horn, really scary stuff. And I think that she was shot as a reaction to that. The officer who shot her also had been on duty in Bloomington, I want to say in June, a few months earlier, pulled a guy over, Guy wouldn't open his window. He broke the window and reached in to unlock the door, and then the guy started driving. So he was dragged for 100 feet. And was still based in Minneapolis, as far as we know, has had no therapy about that. So he was already mad at us.
Yeah. So
Right.
yeah, go on.
I was going to say, back in November, there was a big raid in St. Paul by an employer called Brotex, and I responded to that kind of late. I was on the I get texts, and I got this text, and I didn't go over right away, but then I got another text, and I went over, and
And what was it like when you got there?
When I got there, they had actually already left with the people that they had detained, but there were a bunch of protesters still there, and they were confronting the protesters. And I parked my car and walked over. There's no parking right there, and I got there, I see a bunch of people and a bunch of ICE agents, and I'm standing there not really sure what to do, and then they tear gassed everybody, and I was like, okay, now I have something to do, which is watch tear gas out of people's eyes. So that was but that was big. There were a lot of people who responded to that, and I think that was sort of one of the, it's just there's been a lot that's been happening all along, but after the murder of Renee Good, a whole lot of people who'd been I really should get on Signal, I really should start figuring out how to respond to this stuff. It just went that. It just skyrocketed.
Naomi, when was that event you were just talking about?
The Brotex raid was in November.
Okay. All right. So yeah, they've been here a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Diana, you were pointing to yourself just now.
I was one of those people who's like, I'll get involved. I should get on the Signal chat. I was on Monarca. I think I was on my neighborhood chat, but not a whole lot was happening there on Facebook. I really should. And there's always something in the back of your head. It's well, eventually the resistance will get to my neighborhood, and then I'll join up, right? There's a part of you is waiting for people to go marching down the street saying, "Come out of your house! It's now! It started! This is it!" And she was shot across the alley in the house right behind me. So if I lived any closer to the house where she was shot, I'd be living in that house. So that's kind of the resistance knocking on your door saying, "Hey, it's time to come out." So
sounds like the fascists knocking on your door.
Them too.
I mean, that's kind of my dad's story. There's another episode of this podcast where I actually interview my dad, who's 92, and who, among other things, marched on Washington with Martin Luther King. And the marchers were coming by his office. He was a young lawyer in D.C., and he's like, and then he saw his law school professor from UW Madison walking by, and he's like, well, if he can do it, I can do it. And he joined.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, your dad's awesome anyway. It's great like that.
So, yeah. And anyway, so that's how you joined. Talk to me briefly, Naomi. You mentioned the Legal Observer training. How is that organized, and who does it? And I assume it's national. And what's the training like? And how do interested people get involved?
Okay, so so I assumed it was national until I went looking, and it's something that's very definitely in some places and less so in others. So it was run by a group called Monarca. In the Minnesota now, there are lots of other groups that are offering this training now, including the DFL, which is the Minnesota Democratic Party, and I know there's other groups as well. It was apparently originated with a group called Siembra NC. SIEMBRANC.org, which is an immigrant rights organization in North Carolina. And if you don't have it in your area, there are some virtual trainings in Minnesota. And I would really encourage people to who are living in areas that aren't dealing with this right now, to get in touch with Siembra NC, find out how to do this, and start running these trainings, because they are a really great first step, because they give you, it's about an hour's worth of training, and the stuff they tell you is the basic technique is just show up and film, because what they want is to do this in secret. And in Minnesota in particular, when people show up to observe and film, a lot of the time ICE just leaves. ice if like people can get there fast enough, which like in Minneapolis and St. Paul right now, they really can. Like there's a few like a week ago there were ice agents everywhere. But anytime they would get out of their cars, a crowd would form basically instantly, and people watching and blowing whistles and making noise to like alert other people, and more people would come. And like this is nonviolent. This is a de-escalatory response because like fundamentally people committing violence like mostly are apparently there's like a psychological study on this that like people committing violence are often looking for approval, and if what they're getting is clear disapproval, they are less likely to do it. Like it's not 100% obviously. Like Renee Good's murderer, like new people were watching, new people were filming. He filmed himself, and released the video. But like nonetheless, like is an overall strategy, it's pretty effective. So they teach you what information to get from like immigrants that are being detained. They teach you like they tell you things like your job is not to get in people's way. Do not break the law. Like you don't need to break the law. This is not you just want to. You're just there to observe, and you have the right to do that. And, you collect information, you get information to the immigrant defense groups, so that they could, so they can, file the habeas corpus petition and so on. And then see the other stuff they tell you in the training are, if you get arrested, which like should not happen but could, because ICE doesn't care what you're doing actually. But if you get arrested, like demand a lawyer and stop talking. It just and then there's also trainings. There's also trainings for something called ICE Watch, and I haven't been to one of those. I've been to the Monarca training, but not the ICE Watch training. But like the fundamental technique for like observing ICE is form a crowd and get loud. So you blow whistles, car horns, you like make a bunch of noise so that people know that something's happening, and then more people come. And like so it's called, the training that I got from Monarca is called legal observer training or constitutional observer training or upstander training. And if you are not in Minnesota, well, even if you are in Minnesota, but like especially if you're somewhere that you think ICE might come next, this is a great time to like find out how to get those trainings, set them up, get people interested in attending. Because the more people have that training when you arrive, like the better. When ICE arrives, the better.
Yeah, you also don't have a lot of time to go get that training once it becomes important. It's good to already know what to do the first time they show up.
Yeah.
Sounds like you have more training than ICE officers have.
Cliff, they get 47 days. How dare you?
And it's mostly just teaching them how to yell and not accidentally zip tie themselves when they're using zip tie. So, all right. So you got that training. Diana, did you also go through that training?
I did not. And there's also different kinds of training. What Naomi was talking about was observer training. There's also direct action training. So like once a protest shows up, what is effective? What is not? What do you call a win? What do you not? And I'm signed up for that training. And I can't remember the name of the organization because it's on my phone and my phone is my camera. So I haven't had that training myself.
That's okay.
I've been to
You've been to protests, right?
For a long time.
Yeah,
a bunch of different kinds. So
a murder occurred in your neighborhood, and you decided that was the wake-up call you had been waiting for.
Yeah.
And when I called you to ask you to come on this podcast this week, you were in fact at an ICE thing. when I called.
Yeah, I've been at like 3 active ICE. Well, three gatherings related to Renee Good. When she was shot, we were hearing whistles out our window, and I went out to go look at that to see what was going on there. As far as I knew, it was just another, there's ICE in the neighborhood. And there are 10 of us, and there are 50 of us, and then there were, and that sort of escalated. And when snowballs started flying, and then they responded with tear gas to people running, I was like, I might need to go. Also, there was somebody who had been tear gassed. I saw pictures, literally arm's length away, and so I took them back to my house and got them hosed down and stuff.
Oh wow! Yeah.
But that, if you're wondering how bad pepper spray is, that's how bad it is. You will allow two total strangers, I'd help, walk you across bumpy, very slippery ice for a block and a half, upstairs into a stranger's home who you've never laid eyes on because you can't see, strip down to your underwear in their front hall, get led upstairs to the shower.
Wow.
That's how bad pepper spray is that you'd be willing to do that. So yeah. I don't remember what your question was now.
Wow, that is intense.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So there's that. So I saw that develop. I was there before the ambulances left. I was at the memorial that has grown outside my neighbor's house. And we were already friendly with those people, which was nice because we were able to go offer support without it sounding, like, oh, we're just here for the thing.
Right.
And there were so many people there. They had spilled out into one of the two lanes of traffic on Portland. And so the cops came to be like, you got to get out of the street. And that turned into sort of a thing. But there was a guy with a megaphone there who was very experienced with protests and kept the crowd calm and kept everything chill until they got the, cones and police tape to block the lane off instead of cops.
So you've been having a more or less congenial relationship with the local?
It really depends. That turned out to be okay because the guy was on top of it. The third real thing that I saw was there's 30th from Portland. There's 34th in Oakland, which is a block away, and I live between 33rd and 34th in Oakland. On 35th in Oakland, between that and the next corner, some ice had blocked off the road, and Rob and I went to go see what was going on, see if anyone needed help. And there were no cops there, and ice ended up tear gassing people, and I saw somebody go down and they looked like really bad shape. I was like, let me go see if they need help. So I was walking towards them. A tear gas canister landed like 4 feet in front of me, and a couple people and I like knelt down and started trying to cover it up with snow. We were upwind, tried to cover up with snow while someone went looking for a bucket or something. And I don't know if it was a rubber bullet or another canister or what hit me in the arm. The bruise is just now starting to go away. So I'm only sad it's not scar enough because that'd be a cool battle scar. So that one did not go very smoothly or peacefully.
But there was no police presence there.
There was no police presence there at all.
How many ICE people were there?
I'd say I'd have to go to pictures and look for sure, but I would say 30.
Roughly.
They kept, more kept showing up.
And how many protesters were these 30 guys?
I'd say about the same, maybe a little bit less.
Okay.
But the ICE kept showing up, and most of us kind of showed up at the same time, and not very many people on our side kept showing up, but ICE kept bringing more people in. So. And
Naomi, you've been doing legal observing since you're completing.
I have done some of that, and I did that's why I went to the Protex raid. Most of the times that I've gotten texts, it's been somewhere kind of too far away to get to at a reasonable time.
Mm-hmm.
I did try doing mobile patrol this week.
Hey, what's that like?
So it's like a combination of boring and exciting. So in the Twin Cities, there are all these little neighborhood groups where people have connected on Signal, and then there's hyper local patrols that will there are people that do just stand outside of vulnerable businesses or locations, people who do walking patrols around the neighborhood, and people who do
So what's a vulnerable business or location?
A vulnerable business would be a Spanish language daycare, okay, or an immigrant-owned restaurant, or something else that ICE has targeted or might target in the future.
There are also businesses actively supporting the protesters, like Smitten Kitten is a shop, and they've been fundraising, so I would call them vulnerable as well.
Yeah, and Mischief Toy is another really great business that's been providing support and free whistles and things like that. And then there's a park. Another example is in St. Paul. There's a little shopping center on a street called West 7th, which is one of the big through streets. And it's a shopping center that's got a big parking lot that is right across the street from a large apartment complex that has a lot of immigrants who live there.
Mhm.
So that's been monitored because the parking lot is like a good place for ICE to stage. And so that's somewhere that's being monitored pretty consistently. And there's a signal call that sort of works like a radio for people to like talk about what they're seeing, and you can like tell people where you are, and like if you see something suspicious that might be an ICE agents, where they're going, so that other people can go look and see if that's what it is. You get there's people keep a list of license plates, and so that are known to be ICE agents, although it's constantly getting out of date because ICE is using rental cars, and
they're also just pulling the tags off and shifting them around.
Yeah, that too. But even if you have a license tag you know is ICE last week, sometimes it's a journalist this week, and like not somebody you want to follow around. Yeah, so like it is. So I went out with a local guy who's been doing it, who's been very public about the fact that he's doing it, like with a group. And ideally, you want a couple people in the car. You don't necessarily need 4. But I was not super useful since I was trying to figure out like what people are looking for. Yeah, like he did a mix of like driving. At one point, we saw this like big white Ford Expedition that had 2 guys in it who looked kind of like they might be ICE agents, so we followed it for a while, but it didn't do anything, and eventually left the area, so we went back and patrolled some more. And like a week ago, according to Will, there were ICE agents everywhere. Anytime you did patrol, you would see like a bunch of ICE agents, and now that has really shifted. They have shifted their enforcement to the suburbs and outstate, I think, because in Minneapolis, like they got out of their car, they were immediately surrounded by local activists who are there to protect their neighbors, and like it is really great, and I am really proud of our cities for having such a strong, nonviolent but very effective response to ICE.
Yeah.
So
I think the suburbs sorry, Cliff. I think the suburbs have more of an attitude. Maybe it's changing of, we're safe here. We're not Minneapolis. And so that's more vulnerable to ICE, I think.
I think it is changing. And I think they are getting organized. They're having a little suburbs are just, there's less of they're more spread out, right? There's less population density and they're more spread out.
Yeah.
So figuring out, I think the people there are figuring out how to do the things to keep their community safe. Some of them are asking for help from the city and are getting it. Although as a observer, as like a mobile patrol observer, you are going to be the most effective in your own neighborhood because you know it really well.
Yes.
So if you see people heading in a particular direction, you can sometimes make a guess, like they're heading to Carmel Mall or they're heading to the West 7th or whatever. Like you can make some good guesses about where people are going. And if you're in Apple Valley, like I don't know where anything is.
Right.
I have never heard of Apple Valley, so
Cover Minneapolis.
It's where the zoo is.
Oh, okay. Well, that's nice.
It's a nice
so a couple of comments from our viewers. Hi, viewers. David McDonald notes that they ate at a Mexican restaurant and then came back and abducted the staff.
Yeah. Wow.
That's really classy move. Cheryl Alexander asks, do y'all call the police when ICE shows up?
No.
Mm-mm. I haven't been. I mean, usually the police show up on their own. And like the first day, they were obviously there to protect ICE because you see which side of the police tape they're on, and you see which side the face of the person with the guns is facing, and that the person they're defending is behind them and behind the tape, right? So it's obviously they were there to defend ICE the first time. The second day I was there, they were like just trying to maintain civil order. I think they just wanted us to stay out of the road because that corner had been blockaded like a day before, and they had just gotten the blockades out. So I think they were just not wanting the road to be blockaded again. And the third thing that I saw, which is when you called me, there were no cops at all. But I mean, I might just for there to be a record, but I wouldn't expect them to be super helpful. There's more ice here now.
I would not expect.
Even if they wanted to help.
The Minneapolis Police Department is the police department that murdered George Floyd in 2020. And then when people showed up to protest it, like fired tear gas.
Yeah.
I mean, it is not.
I saw videos, yeah.
Yeah, things have maybe gotten a little better, but like not so as I have a whole lot of faith in.
Yeah. The Fraternal Order of Police has come out in favor of ICE.
Yeah.
I mean, right now the cops are like, okay, they might have some consequences, so they might be a little less willing to start something. I think also a lot of police officers are starting to get annoyed with ICE and with the feds for not sharing information so that they can investigate. So I think any given cop, there's just no telling what side they're on.
Yeah.
What they're gonna do.
I mean, there are scenarios where I can imagine calling the cops, but like in general,
I just generally don't anyway.
Yeah.
And honestly, like there was one time we were driving down the street. This was a couple years ago. A car was like in front of us at the stop sign, arguing with somebody on the street. Rob was like, "They just need to clear out. I should call the police." It's like, don't call the police. They're black. If you think someone might, get shot, and that would help, fine, call the police. But otherwise, I just don't.
Here in San Jose, several years ago, we called the police because there were two motorists having a little driving argument, and one of them pulled out a gun.
Yeah, that would like,
we're like, call the police.
Yeah, this is the thing, is that like I'm not going to say there are no situations where people should, but like there are very few situations involving ICE where adding police to the situation is going to make things better for anyone other than ICE.
Yeah.
Well, at least the police have more de-escalation training than ICE, which apparently has no de-escalation training.
Right.
I mean, one of the comments I heard is that I forget where this is from, but I think it might have been like from a police officer by way of a journalist, is that like it doesn't look like ICE has even been trained how to like subdue someone and put handcuffs on them, which is like really basic cop stuff. Like they'll do it, but they do not do it effectively, efficiently, like without like you want to have like a minimal use of force, not only because like obviously you should be policing with minimal use of force, but also because if you're the person doing the putting somebody on the ground and handcuffing them, like you want it to be as easy as possible for you. Like
if nothing else, yeah.
From a purely self-interested perspective, you don't want to like put yourself to more effort than is necessary to do things like handcuff someone. And like they haven't even been taught like sort of really basic shit like that.
They haven't been taught how to hold onto your handcuffs. They haven't been taught how to hold onto your tear gas grenades. It might have been a flashbang. Well, you can find this stuff lying in the street.
Yeah.
You can find 34th in Portland. There was I'm not sure if it was a flashbang or a tear gas grenade, because I just don't know, lying on the street with the pin still in it. Isn't that nice? There's a cop who was slipped on the ice and his gun went off because he's just walking around with the safety off.
I heard it wasn't actually his gun that went off. I heard that the flash was a flashlight that got bumped, but I
guess that's possible. But anyway.
So what do you do if you come across a tear gas canister with the pin still in it?
I would probably call the police for that, because if there's no protest going on, it's just sitting there on the ground. I would call them to come and deal with that, in the appropriate.
No, that's a good. I would honestly, for that I would call 911 and I would let.
That's true. 911, yeah.
Is this a police thing or a fire department?
Decide,
yeah. It might be a fire department.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know what the person who found it did.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to keep it. If that's
Put it on the mantle just in case you need it.
I did go back looking for the rubber bullet or tear gas canister or whatever it was that hit me just to have it. But the person who lived there cleaned up their yard and stuff. And I can't blame them. But I didn't.
Yeah, wouldn't want that lying around my yard.
Yeah.
So, oh my goodness. All right. So now Trump is threatening to do the Insurrection Act because apparently legal observers are now insurgents in upside down Trump world, or so how what's the vibe by you guys about
every
that?
accusation is a confession.
Yeah. So are people talking about that? Are people worried about that? Or is there training about that?
I think people are uncertain, like what that would even mean in a functional level. Like, what would that change about what we're doing now?
Right.
Because we're not breaking the law.
Yeah. I mean,
Most of us are not breaking the, it's legal to follow people around. It's legal to drive around the streets of your own city.
And a judge who said so.
What?
Did you hear about the judge who said so? There's a federal judge in Minneapolis who said you cannot use tear gas or chemical agents on peaceful protesters. You can't pull people over for following you. You can't detain people for being at a protest. So as long as we follow the law, they're the only ones breaking it. And now that can be overruled or whatever, but there's at least some breathing room there in y'all aren't really supposed to be doing this, boys.
I genuinely, I mean, I don't know what they think the Army is going to do here. Like, I really don't, because it's not like, I mean, in 2020, there was a whole lot of civil disorder in the wake of like the murder of George Floyd, the protests of the police department. Like there was disorder, and there was opportunistic disorder happening where people were like, I mean, like looting pharmacies and then burning them down to add to the chaos. Like that was not a protester action. That was like, that was some group stealing the drugs to sell them. There was a lot of stuff going on in 2020, and here now it's like local people acting to keep their local communities safe in legal ways. So like, what are the soldiers going to do if they come here? I don't even know. So my feeling right now is sort of like, I mean,
I think what he expects is, I'm going to start the Insurrection Act. We're all going to go like, oh, well, okay, I guess we're done. Like the more that they do, the more I and most of the people I know are like, well, now it's even more important that we do what we're doing. So I think everyone's just like, okay, bring it.
The day after that Renee Good was murdered, like a friend of mine and I were like, we're gonna go try to patrol, and went and drove around South Minneapolis for ICE officers to follow. And like, we were not connected to the signal chats or anything like that. It was just pure spontaneous, like, we need to do something and we need to do it now.
Yeah.
And like, that's been the vibe here, and that has continued to be the vibe here, is that every like time they escalate, people are like, well, I guess I need to get involved. I guess I need to I need to get on Signal. I need to find my chat. I need to get the training. I need to or in some cases, like, I need to go volunteer with a mutual aid group. I need to bring some groceries to somebody who can't leave their house. I need to figure out do they need somebody to do their laundry? I need to go do a stranger's laundry. I need to walk somebody's dog. I need to talk to the moms on my PTA and find out if there's kids that might have their parents snatched, and how we're gonna take care of those kids. There's just a million tasks, and every day people are stepping up to do that.
Yeah.
So it's very self-organizing.
Yeah, I would say interconnected networks of independent organizations. Does that sound right to you, Naomi?
Yeah, there is no leader. There is no one person. There's signal groups in the signal
which is gonna make it hard to stomp out. There's no head to cut off.
So you don't go to the Antifa clubhouse and
right. Bow to the president of Antifa.
No one has given me the address of the Antifa clubhouse.
I also want my protester paycheck. God damn it! I could use that money for something really cool. I could buy myself.
There are people on the streets of Minneapolis who are getting paid to be here and cause trouble, and that would be the ICE officers that are out on the streets of Minneapolis. They're never going to get that $50,000 bonus they were promised.
No, neither did the person who turned in
Luigi.
Sorry.
Yeah.
No, really?
Right.
They didn't get their payout.
Go figure. It's sad.
Shocking.
I think this is a reaction to the Insurrection Act threat. Tim Walz, our governor, has mobilized but not deployed the National Guard here.
Right.
So I think that might be a thing of third, fourth, I'm losing count, set of chess pieces getting onto the board.
I looked at that and I'm like, I don't even know how to interpret that.
Yeah. Yeah. My way to interpret it is it pissed Trump off, therefore it must be at least not helping him.
Yeah.
You know, National Guard is at least trained. You know, I think they're willing to be a little more chill and like, let's see what's actually happening here than ICE is, and maybe even than our local cops. I don't know.
I have a friend in the National Guard, and like he had a guard weekend a couple weeks back, and like because there had been a lot of talk about the guard, they weren't even allowed to do the normal stuff that like normally on one of his guard weekends they would like go refuel all the vehicles, and they didn't do that because like there was the people in charge were like, if we refuel the vehicles, people will see us and they'll be like, oh no, the guard's deploying, and like they're not.
Right.
So like stay put,
just
stay here, nobody leave, nobody go anywhere in uniform.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to start. And they've now, Walls has said too, and I thought this was really interesting, that if the guard is deployed, they will all be wearing yellow safety vests over their uniforms so that we can tell them apart from ICE.
Right, because their uniforms are similar, but I think also, ICE is going to go buy safety vests if that happens. They buy all their equipment on eBay anyway. They say police across their chest. They didn't get that police. They're not police. They bought that shit on eBay. Also, though, I think the main difference is National Guard is going to show their faces, and ICE won't.
Yeah.
I've seen 3 ICE agents with their faces uncovered, and I've probably laid eyes on hundreds over the past week and a half. Because I was out of town over the weekend.
Yeah, safety vests are also being used by patrol groups. Like a lot of the people doing like school patrols and so on are wearing.
I mean,
safety vests they picked up at Menards or whatever.
Yeah, I drive a school bus and have one on all the
time.
Local
Fraballonis, which is their local Ace Hardware that have anti-ice sign.
Yep.
But so safety vests, and there's also like it's funny. You can often just tell looking. It's like, is that person ICE or are they like local? And like Minneapolis people have like a look.
Yeah.
The ICE guys.
And cops are obvious. They're wearing black. I've seen a few safe ICE guys wearing black, but they also are proudly emblazoned ICE. But cops wear black. You know what the sheriffs look like. You know what the highway patrol looks like. Now we have to know what National Guard looks like. Brown. They own a face. Everything else is ICE.
And the ICE can't handle the ice, right? They're not Minnesotans by and large.
No. Oh, here's a great story. Minnesotans have, and I've seen this time and time again in my 25 years here. If you get stuck in the snow, within 30 seconds, there's gonna be 3 or 4 people behind your car pushing it out. You get loose, they're like, bye, and they take off. No thanks necessary, whatever. It's just a thing we do. It doesn't matter if you've got a KKK sign in your back window, you push someone out of the fucking snow. I just gotten snuck in the snow and everyone's standing around going, wow, that's a shame. Wow, wish only there was something you could do about that, man. And that just, I don't know, it's just so indicative to me of the attitude that Minneapolis brings.
Yeah, like, I mean, people will take you inside their house and like let you use their bathroom to like wash off tear gas if you are a civilian protester. But if you're ICE and you pepper spray yourself, which they have done, like
oh gee, too bad, man.
Oh,
wow, that sure looks like it hurts. You betcha.
All right, Bob has posted a link for resources.
Yes, they're great.
Yeah. So Defense 612 is a site that's been used to organize volunteers to defend Minneapolis. 612 is the area code for Minneapolis. But it also has a lot of really great resources in the resources section for anyone who wants to get started thinking about how they would do this in their own area. It talks about like best practices for signal groups and like sort of how people do stuff like mobile patrol and dispatching and all of that. And it is people can totally check that out and look for resources. Please don't try to join Minneapolis signal groups unless you live here though, because they are overloaded. Like they're like a lot of people trying to get in, and it takes a while. And if you are from Minneapolis or St. Paul or the surrounding areas, and you're like trying to get into your local signal chats, just be aware it's going to take a while.
I was going to say the same thing. And also like they a lot of these groups are also organizing by neighborhood. So if you sign up for Defend 612 and you're not in Minneapolis, they have nowhere to put you because they've got a Powderhorn group, they've got a Central group, they've got a North Minneapolis group.
And if you're in St. Louis Park, a St. Louis Park exists. It's just not being organized to Defend 612.
Yeah.
And if you're not sure how to find it, look for somebody who's distributing whistles and ask them.
Yeah.
But get on Signal first because it's mostly being done through Signal.
And you can also join your neighborhood Facebook group wherever you are. There are a lot of neighborhoods across the country that have Facebook groups, and that's a good way to stay informed of, or WhatsApp, or to stay informed of what's going on. If someone's like, "Yeah, I'm going to a thing," you know.
Yeah, and there's a lot of groups that have organized through their kids' schools. Like a lot of the organization, people will say like, get organized, get ready and get organized. And what that means is like join your local thing, whatever that is. Like if you're part of a school, if you have kids who are going to school, get involved with the PTA because that's where the organization is going to happen, like when you need it.
And it's all ICE organization all the time here. Like there's no group that's not talking about it, at least on occasion.
I have a friend who went to a neighborhood meeting earlier this week, who said that at the neighborhood meeting there was a group called it was like the Kingsfield Safety Club, and the guy from the Kingsfield Safety Club said, "Yeah, we're a group. We got together to like shovel the sidewalks and shovel the crosswalks in the winter, and like there was something that they did in the summer." And he was like, "And now I guess we defend democracy."
Nice.
Now we fight fascism.
Right. Shovel that shit off the sidewalk for sure.
Yeah.
Both jobs involve getting rid of dangerous ice.
Yeah. Yep.
So, alrighty. I'm curious, Naomi, you have the wonderful science fiction and mystery bookstore, Uncle Hugo's, Uncle Edgar's. Have they gotten involved at all? Because I know they're kind of a community hub.
I don't know. I haven't been over there lately. But they are across the street from a bookstore called Moon Palace, which is like a major hub for like whistles and signs and organizing and so on. So possibly not just because Moon Palace is right there and Uncle Hugo's is kind of small.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Moon Palace is a great bumper sticker they are unfortunately out of, last I heard, but it says abolish ICE so Minneapolis can get back to puppet making and fucking in the streets.
Yeah,
at the same time or separately?
Depends on what your duties are.
Yeah, like the puppet making is serious business here. Like people talk. I heard somebody refer to the battle puppets recently because any big protest is going to have like a giant puppet somewhere.
Yeah.
So Portland has frogs, and you guys have puppets.
We do.
Yep.
Nice. Nice. This is the kind of specific local information I was hoping to get on this podcast episode.
Yeah. If you're looking for March, look for puppets in the crowd. That's where it is. We used to have a May Day festival here that was a parade and a pageant at the end full of 40-foot tall puppets.
And we still have it.
I want to say during COVID, they stopped doing it. And a bunch of neighbors were like, no. I showed up the next day. It's like 100 of us huddling around a campfire saying, well, at least we're here. And then the next year it was like, well, I've got some, I've got one of those big bikes. Let me get my friends together. And so now the parade is happening again. It's just not run by the puppet theater, but that means there's a lot of puppeteers looking for something to do.
All right.
We're doing it.
So we are coming on the hour, and different hour depending on where you are. I'm on the West Coast. And so any final things about your experiences, either being just Twin Cities residents or dealing with ICE, or anything you think that would help the viewers in other places across the country deal with nascent ICE surges that might be happening in the near future?
I would say hug your friends, make sure you eat, make sure you drink water, maybe carry a bottle of water around with you just in case some tear gas erupts. But make sure you take care of yourself and the people around you physically. Get enough sleep. Yes, the protest is happening, but you can sleep now. There's going to be another one.
Yeah, I really there's there's a quote from the Jewish text, the Pirkei Avot, that goes, "You are not obligated to complete the work, but neither are you free to desist from it." And that's been words
Yes.
that I really lived by in this
Yep.
fight. Like I do not have to do the whole job myself on any given day. It is just my job to do whatever little piece of it I can, and that's like, and I think that's how almost everyone's approaching it. We are not. None of us are the protagonist here. Like we are just we are all just trying to like do a little piece of it. And what's amazing is seeing people show up and seeing people like do their little piece of it and seeing it work.
How many people usually show up when there's an incident?
There's incidents all over, Cliff. There's no way to say. I mean, there's the main protest up at the Whipple Federal Building where they're staging. I haven't been there. That's probably the most intense one. But 35th in Oakland, right near me, there were probably 50 of us, 50, 60 of them. So they're
trying to get a ballpark.
Yeah, there's no way to know. There's no way to know. There was a demonstration in Powderhorn Park that had 100,000 people at it, and they marched through the neighborhood. So there's no way to know.
Wow.
Yeah, I went to that.
Yeah, how many people live in the Twin Cities, roughly?
Including the suburbs, I want to say Minneapolis is 1 million. I don't know about St. Paul and its suburbs. So metro area, a couple million, I'd guess.
Yeah, I want to say it's like...
Look it up here real quick.
So 100,000 is a big chunk of the population.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, it is.
Okay, so according to the AI on Google, which I don't normally look at, but we're running out of time. Minneapolis has a population of around 429,000 in 2020.
But that's not the metro area. That's
right,
just
the metro area houses over 3.7 million people.
Okay.
So 100,000 is still significant.
It's still, that's getting, especially in the winter, getting 100,000 Americans outdoors for anything is that's huge.
Approaching that 3.5%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It says you can't beat the public when you get that percentage of them out saying goodbye.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a general strike on the 23rd.
Oh, talk about that real quick.
Well, there's like just people are calling it Ice Out Today on January 23rd. I don't know if this is local or if there's like larger efforts, but locally it's being heavily organized, backed by the unions. People are being asked to not work, not spend money, and to show up for a big protest. And that's going to be January 23rd.
That's Saturday, Sunday?
So it's Friday.
Friday. Okay.
Yeah. It's next Friday. It's this coming Friday.
This coming Friday. It's like 5 days from now.
Yeah.
All righty. Well, thank you for letting us know. And this has been an absolutely, I think, really important discussion. Thank you both for coming.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, I want you both back in the future to hopefully talk about more pleasant things. But like Naomi's book release in June, right? June from Tor.
June.
Yeah. Obstetrics. Look for it from Tor in June with an X. Obstetrics with an X.
Right.
Okay, Bob, do your Bob thing.
Well, actually, I had before we went on, I had made the observation that the ICE folks were all dressed like this at some old Army surplus store in Arkansas, where they went out out shooting in the swamps when they got drunk and found a bunch of military excess, and they put it all on and then declared themselves military. And just looking at the line, when the ICE people line up for the camera in Minnesota, that's what it looks like. I mean, there is nothing uniform about these people's gear. There's nothing uniform about their weaponry. There is just, they look like a bunch of people that missed the casting call for a good Southern redneck movie about the post-apocalyptic I mean, what's the deal? You
A
guys
poorly
talk about it.
poorly regulated militia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, y'all talked about it before the show, but I thought the people deserved to hear the concept of from y'all's perspective.
Thanks.
Andrew J. Lucas says it's fascist cosplay.
Cop
Mhm.
cosplay.
They're not
but
cosplay fascists. They are fascists.
fascists have way better fashion sense than these guys.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's the thing about fascists. Like real good fascists have excellent fashion sense.
They are bringing down the caliber of fascists.
They are. They're
Aesthetically, for
they're
sure.
giving fascists a bad name in the fashion arena.
Well, I've heard you guys referred to it as cosplay.
Cosplay.
Cops
Yeah.
play.
Cosplay. Yeah.
Cosplay.
Although really they're
Cosplay.
trying to be soldiers, not cops.
I've also heard people call them the Timu Gestapo, like Timu being the where you can go to get like cheap cop
Love that.
cosplay pieces.
This is what happens when you buy your Gestapo on Temu.
Well, I was just curious because I didn't know when body armor became available as male girdles.
Well, probably about the time these guys started wearing it.
Yeah.
But what's the good news?
I would say the good news is that courts are backing us up for now. You weren't. I don't know if you were listening, Bob, but a U.S. district judge here just said that ICE can't tear gas or pepper spray peaceful crowds. They can't arrest us. They can't pull us over just for following them. So that's some good news. Also, the good news is that people are connecting with each other and forming community and have each other's backs. We're not just going out to protests and yelling and the cops suck. And people are also showing up with like samosas and chai. Watch
That's
the dangerous
America.
watch the dangerous protesters petting dogs and drinking tea. We're trying to also have a positive attitude about it, because if it's all doom and gloom, you're not gonna keep doing it.
That's
So I think the good news is that we just get more and more committed.
That's a good thing, because I can remember down in Portland, the protesters had first aid people that you're suddenly kneeling in the dark while somebody you don't know is pouring a half gallon of milk over your face to get the tear gas out of your eyes.
Yeah. Milk, by the way, doesn't help. Water's
Don't
best.
use milk, use water.
Yeah, water's best.
Well, they
Pro
were
tip for the viewers.
and it seemed to help. So I'll let the experts in the first aid do what they do, and just say thank you to all of them, and thank you guys, because this is not over. It will. I see that the mayor and your governor are both going to be in handcuffs before this even gets close to being over.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, he said they're going to be investigated, but
that's usually just a threat to scare people. They don't actually usually.
They're not doing anything. This is the thing: is that there's a lot of people that they've been threatening, and they want to be able to make threats and have people cower. And the more we don't do that, the more they don't know what to do. And
well,
that's what gives me hope. What gives me hope, the thing that I think is the good news, is that they cannot make us submit. They cannot. There are too many of us, and we are too ready to keep defying them.
You do outnumber them.
And we outnumber them. There are a lot more of us than there are.
Well, good luck and keep at it, because when the idea is that they can walk up and spray mace right in your face or tear gas right in your face as a way of making you stop protesting, if that judge's order survives the same Supreme Court that said they could line you up on the ground, put an officer behind you, peel your eyelid back, and swab your eye with pepper spray, because that's been to court and the court's upheld it.
Yep.
So we'll see if we get any real relief from what is essentially full blown assault and cruelty
Yeah.
for the sake of cruelty.
Mhm.
And thank you. So take care and say goodbye to everybody.